Welcome to another Adobe Animate tutorial for beginners. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the most basic ways to step up your Classic Tween game. And even though I will be using rectangles for my examples, other shapes, lines, text, and original art created using the brush tool, pen tool, or pencil can all be animated by manipulating these same properties as well. At the end of the video, I'm also going to break down a quick animation that I made where I only used Classic Tweens and PNG images that I imported into the project. Sort of. Alright, so to start the video, I'm just going to add some keyframes and apply a Classic Tween to all three of these rectangles. And for me, I'm just going to go kind of every 2 seconds for every animation thing that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to click on this top one, hold it, and just drag down to select all three, right click, and insert keyframe, and that adds them for all three here. And then I'm just going to drag all these over to the right, over here, and then somewhere in the middle, just do the same thing, click and drag down so I have blue on all three, right click, and create Classic Tween. Now when we watch them, we can see they move from left to right. But there's actually a very simple thing that we can do to kind of spice up those movements instead of it just going from one spot to the next. So I'm actually going to leave purple the same, and I'm just going to go to blue here. And if you click between the keyframes, so not on a keyframe here or a keyframe here, but anywhere in the middle, you can go over here under Properties and you'll see Tweening. And the one that we're looking for is under Effect, and right now it's set to Classic Ease. And if I click on that, you can see that it just means like this bottom down here, this is just our frames. Okay, so along here, this is how many frames we have in this span from this keyframe to this keyframe. And up here is how much of the transition from one spot to the next is done. So this would be 100% done, this is 0% done. So you can see this is just a constant from one spot to the next. But within this menu, we can actually change how this line goes, which means we're changing how the movement of our rectangles happens. So I'm going to go to Ease In so you can see quickly that this one is curved like this, and what this means is the lower this line is, the flatter this line is, the slower it's moving, because it's moving all these frames, but it's not actually done a lot of the animation yet. And then the steeper the incline, the faster the movement that's going to happen. So if I double click, I'm just going to use cubic here for example, so I'm going to double click, and that'll apply it to this one. You can see it automatically jump back, because that means these ones are going consistent. This one is moving slow, and then it's going to speed up. So if I go back and we watch this, it's going to go slow and then speed up, and it'll still time and hit the exact same time as these other ones, but it has a different movement. It eases in and then goes fast. So let's try this one. I'm going to click between, anywhere in between the two keyframes, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to select ease out for this one and still select cubic. Okay, and this one you can see it jump forward. So if I go back and I push play, now this one's going to go fast and then slowly end. If we watch the loop here, you can see that purple is moving consistent, just straight across. Blue is starting slow and then going fast, it's easing in. And then red is going fast and then easing out, because that's what we have applied in our easing settings over here. But if we click on this and go to ease in, we can try some different ones here. So we try quart. You can see that it's going to be even slower, and then quick. Quint is even slower than that, and the other ones have just kind of different effects. So I'm going to maybe try, this is an ease in, so I'm going to try this elastic one. And you can see that some of them are all kind of funky, right? So I'm going to double click there and just watch the blue one right now. So elastic goes, and then it like launches. So it like pulls back like an elastic and then launches. So that one looks a lot better when you're doing ease in. But for this red one here, this is our ease out. I'm going to try like bounce. So bounce is a pretty good one for ease out. So if I double click, you're going to see that one goes and then boing, boing, boing. Now to show you some of the other things that we can do with easing, I'm just going to add some more keyframes and we'll send these rectangles back to this side. So I'm going to add these ones here, right click, insert keyframe. I'll move these back over here, and then add my Classic Tweens right there. Okay, so on this top one here, we didn't do anything last time, we kept it consistent. So I'm not going to do anything crazy, but if we click on this and we keep it on Classic Ease, we can also change the intensity by just clicking on this 0 and sliding to the right, and that will make it a kind of fast and then slow maneuver, and then if I go click and drag it to the left and go minus, that'll make it slow to fast. So I'm just going to leave it like that for that top one there, for the purple one. It'll go slow to fast at the end. And then for this next one, for blue, I'm just going to show you that there's also an option to ease in and out. And I'll just go back to cubic so we can keep it consistent. And you'll see for that one, it'll ease in and then go fast and then ease out at the very end. So it does a little bit of both. Slow in, fast, and then slow. That was the blue one in the middle. Okay, and then for red at the bottom, I'm just going to show you how you can customize it. So if you click here, you can go down here to custom, and you can click new or my ease and any of these. So I'm just going to click new one, and you'll get this. Now, it's just normal. There's nothing you can do here right now. So you just click, you just double click and put a new one. And then this is going to come up, this little window. You can also get this window by clicking on this. I'll show you in a second. So this is just the straight path, and you can name it what you want. So I'm going to name this one just super. And all you have to do is you just click anywhere and it'll create this little dot, and you can drag it to where you want it. So you can make it really extreme. And then these little handles here can help you adjust the curve to what you want. And if you add another dot, you can just do the exact same thing. So make a funky one like this. And then all you have to do is go save and apply. And now it'll apply it over here. And if you click back in the future on custom, it'll be added right there. So let's just watch what this red one does. It goes really slow, kind of stops, and then super fast, and then stops almost dead again. So really slow, boom, and then just kind of jumps. Okay, so like I said before, if you click on right here, so we had cubic ease in and out. If you click right here, edit easing, that'll also bring up that for the preset right here, and you can enhance it any way you want. So you can click here and make your, you know, a little bit more extreme if you want, or just adjust it in any way to make it custom as well. And then just save and apply, and it'll change to, oh, I forgot to name it, it'll change to whatever you selected there instead of the preset. And then you can see I just adjusted it a little bit there, that blue one. Okay, so next up, let's take a look at how to rotate our objects. And I'm going to show you kind of 3 different ways that you can do it, starting with the red one down here. So I'm going to go down here, insert my keyframe again, and Classic Tween it first. And then I'm going to go to this final keyframe and just move this one over here. Now, if you notice here, there's this little dot right here. That's the pivot point. So wherever this is, that's what your object is going to rotate around. But the first way that I'm going to show you, that's going to disappear in a second. So when you click back here in between the keyframes, you're going to notice that it's gone because we've clicked back on the tween, not on the keyframe. And that means that we're going to use tweening here to rotate. And you can see here it's rotate, and right now it's on auto. But if I click here, you can see that we can rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. Either way, so I'm going to click clockwise. And you can see that right here there's a number. So I've selected 1 rotation clockwise. So if we go back to the start of this part here and I push play, it's going to rotate around that center pivot point. So you can see it here, it's in the center. It's going to rotate 1 rotation all the way around until it gets to the end. And then obviously if you click back here, you can change this to, you know, as many as you want, I guess. I don't know if there's a limit. And if we push play, that was what, 12 or something? So that would just spin all the way across to there. But we can also rotate our objects by using this right here. So if I go to this keyframe, move this one over, then we can also just do it manually. So in this case, I'm going to go to the corner. So if you're on this one right here, not this, but on this one, the free transform, and you go to the corner, you'll see this little hooking circle arrow thing, and you can rotate your object as well. So I'm going to rotate just kind of 90 right there. So we can go back to the start, and you can see that one rotates just 90. But something that you need to know is if you click on that and you try and rotate this one, so that was 180, 270, and then all the way around 360. If you try and rotate 360, doing it manually like that with the free transform tool, watch blue this time. It's not going to move at all. It's just going to go straight across. So you just can't do 360. If you want it to be 1 full rotation, then do it the tweening way by going here to rotate and select your rotation of 1 or whatever you're going to do. And then this last one, add this keyframe in and Classic Tween this. This last one here, you notice that I put the pivot point in the corner. So you can move it, you know, wherever you want, but I'm just going to leave it in this corner for now, because you got to make sure that wherever you put this, that it's the same as the end of your animation as well. So they're not in different spots. Otherwise, you're going to create a funky animation like that. So now I'm going to go to the corner here. I'm going to pivot this one just around like this. And now when we go back here and I push play, it's going to pivot around that spot, that dot right there, that corner, instead of around the middle, like that. And just to show you how it'll look weird if you change this spot, I'm going to move it across to here and then watch how much different that is. It's going to start rotating and then be like, it's going to be all weird and funky at the end. It's going to look at it, it kind of missed and then went whoop and just kind of jumped back. So make sure to set the pivot point before you start animating. But rotation isn't the only thing that we can animate by using the free transform tool. We can also do scale, skew, squish, and squash as well. So let me show you scale. So you can see here I already have the keyframes and the Classic Tweens in for all three of these. And I'm going to change scale for the purple one. So if I go all the way to the end, you can see that we're animating from right to left this time. And if I click on the keyframe and I'm on free transform, I get the same look that I got when I was trying to rotate, when I went to the corner like this. But if you go right to the corner, you get a different symbol, this arrow from one side to the other. And that one allows you to free transform, so to make it larger or smaller. But as you can see, as I'm doing that, I am changing the aspect ratio as well. So hint, hint, that's how you squish and squash as well. But if I go Control Z to go back, if you want to maintain the proper aspect ratio to just shrink this rectangle or make it bigger, just hold Shift, and now you can only change it to be the same aspect ratio. So I'm going to make this one smaller, and if we watch from start to finish here, we can see that it'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. And just like for rotation, it will change size based on where this pivot point is. So if I hold Shift again and make this bigger, if I move the pivot point over here and then hold Shift and change the size, it's going to expand exponentially based on this pivot point. So I'm going to shrink this back down and put the pivot point back so I can shrink this to where it was. So now let's take a look at the next one. So if I click on this keyframe for the blue one and I go to one of the lines in between the black squares here, you'll get this kind of weird looking symbol here, and that's just to skew. So you can slide this left and right to skew anything left and right, again around the pivot point. If I go to the start here and play, you can see that'll just skew as it goes. The last one here, let's look at, we kind of did it already, so it's squish or squash. So if you just go to one, not one of the, well, you can use the corner ones to kind of squish and squash at the same time. But if you go to one of these four, you can either squish like this, or you can squash. This comes in handy when you're like bouncing a ball or, you know, like whatever like that. So I'm just going to squish this down and I'm going to stretch this out. And we can see that that one will animate as it goes from right to left as well. Which brings us to the final things that I'm going to show you how to animate, which are, if we slide over here, color effects. So this new section here, you can see I added a new section. If we just watch it, we're going from left to right again. But if we click at the end, we can see under color effects that we can choose brightness is an option. So if I click on that, we can go darker or lighter all the way to white or down to black. So I'm just going to make this one maybe just a little bit darker red. So if we watch that, we can see that it goes from bright red to dark red, which means we can change the brightness of our object. If we go to the blue one here and I click here again and we go to color effects, this time we'll go down to tint, which basically means the color. You can either slide this along to change the tint, so messing with it yourself to try and find something, or if you click on here right on the color thing, you can get the swatches and then you can just pick whatever you want. So this one was blue, maybe I'll just make it, let's go pink instead. So now when we watch it, obviously it goes from blue to pink. Next up, we got the purple one up top, and if we go back in, I'm not going to go into advanced, but this advanced means that you can actually change alpha and the colors together. So I'm just going to show you alpha for this one, which means that it's really the transparency. So that's not white, that means it's see-through here at 0%, and 100% means you can see all of it. So I'm just going to kind of go to almost see-through down here so we can kind of see it. And if there was something behind it, you could start seeing that thing that was behind it, which I'll show you in a second. So that goes from being able to see to almost see-through there at the end. So to show you the transparency thing a little bit better, I just added a word here, so blend, and you can see here it's my text layer. I'm just going to drag it under purple, and you can see that the box right here is covering it completely, but by the time we get to the end, you can see that it's transparent right there. Okay, so now, like I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm going to break down a simple animation that I made only using Classic Tweens. But throughout this one animation, I used every single effect or transition or animation that I showed you in this video. Plus, I only used PNG files that I downloaded from Google. So I didn't draw any of these. These are just kind of stock images that I downloaded. The only thing that I did was I brought a few of them into Photoshop, like the boat and this albatross or seagull thing here, and I broke them apart into pieces. So in Photoshop, I separated the two wings off of the body here, and on the boat, I separated the sail and the life preserver from the boat. So they're all their own separate piece. For example, if I click the eyeball, I can make that go away. So I animated that layer here, and the boat's its own piece as well. So I could kind of manipulate each of these pieces in their own sort of way. So let's just watch it once through quick here. So we push play, and the boat's sailing, it hits the rock, and the sail kind of moves, and then it sinks. That's it. That's the whole entire thing. So let me just break it down kind of piece by piece really quick, and I'll show you what I did on each layer here. So the first one here, I'm going to bring in the front water, and basically all I did here was, you can see that I just moved it kind of up and down. I used some ease in and ease out there, and that's about it. You can see that I changed the brightness of it too. You can see it's kind of darker here, and then it gets kind of lighter there, just for the sake of it. Then the next one, the rock, that was the next one behind there, and I just kind of moved it with the waves, because it's not really moving with the waves, but I moved the waves here, the water, because the boat was moving, so it makes it look like the boat's moving a little bit faster. And the reason why it stops right there is because that's where the boat hits it, and then it just kind of stops dead, because now nothing is moving anymore. And then I put let's save the life preserver till later, because it looks kind of weird as it kind of shows up. You can see I kind of rotated it a little bit as I was doing things here. So life preserver's keyframes only kind of there, and then that's where it kind of hits and stops, and then I rotate it down as it sinks. So I'll bring in the boat and the sail together here. So as the boat's going, I just kind of rotated it a little bit, kind of rocked it, and then boom, right here, if I click on especially the boat one here, you can see I used cubic ease out, so it kind of slows as it gets up there, it kind of slows up. And then on the next section here, I used cubic ease in, and then it's going to go faster as it kind of sinks. And you can see the sail, I obviously rotated. Like if I click on the sail, you're going to see that if I hide the boat, you can see the pivot point was right down here for this. So because I don't want the pivot point up here, I need it down here so I can pivot it where it's attached to the boat right there. Okay, and then the water at the back, these two, basically all I did with those was the same as the front, just kind of changed the color or the brightness and kind of move them along to make it look like it's waves kind of crashing in different directions. And then the other ones were easy down here. I'm going to save the albatross for last. The three clouds, I simply just had one keyframe at the start and one at the end, and just moved them along. And I think I made them maybe a little bit bigger or something. I skewed something somewhere as well, squashed something, I can't really remember. Maybe it's the rock or maybe just the waves, I'm not sure. So in there, that's the clouds just kind of move from right to left really slow. And then the last one's the albatross. And when I click on it, all that I animated here on this one was the bird, like him flying like up. And then you can see this keyframe was moving down. Oh, that's what I squished and changed the size of the scale. So you can see at the start he's a little bit bigger, and he's kind of flying away. As he gets to the end, he's much smaller and flying away. But the thing that you might be confused about is how the wings are flapping, because there's not like a million keyframes in here. So if I go to this albatross, if I go to this one and I click here, and if I double click on this, you'll see it'll open up a brand new timeline here. So it's the albatross one that's inside the other one. And all I did with this one is you can see that the only thing that's happening is the wings being squashed to look like they're flapping. And what happens in here is if this timeline is shorter than the other one, so this is only 10 frames, it's just gonna repeat. It's just going to constantly loop back and forth, or not back and forth, but it's gonna go straight through and then back to 0, back to 1, and then back to 10, and it's gonna go straight through. So if I click loop here and bring this out, you can see it'll look like this. It'll just be constantly looping. And that's exactly what happens. I'm gonna get rid of the loop there. And then when I go back, so click on this thing to the main one, so the big movement of it was animated here on this timeline, but the wings flapping was animated on its own one in here. Okay, so that's it. That's a whole bunch of ways to step up your Classic Tween animating game. If you got something out of this video, make sure to drop a like. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and I will catch you next time.